morning. Welcome to the October 5th Zoning Board of Adjustment meeting. If there are any members of the audience that wish to speak to an item on the agenda today, there are speaker request forms to the left of the dais. Please fill out the request with the agenda number of the item you wish to speak to and hand it to the staff seated over there. At this time, we would also like to ask that if anybody has a cell phone or other electronic device, that you please turn it off or turn the ringer to silent. If you need to take a call, please step out to the hallway so the meeting is not disrupted. The public hearing on item number 1, the approval of the August 24th, 2023 Zoning Board of Adjustment meeting minutes, is hereby opened.
Move approval of the minutes.
Second.
All right, Karen made the motion to approve those minutes, and Vince seconded the motion. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 2.
Good morning, Zoning Board of Adjustment. Item number 2 is 23 VA 019, which is a variance to allow a one-story, 23.6 foot high accessory structure in lieu of the maximum height of 15 feet, and also to allow an accessory structure side yard setback of 34.6 feet in lieu of the required 40 feet. The property is located along Skyline Ranch Road. It's actually located on a private driveway, as you can see the property outlined here. And the applicant is proposing to build a large oversized garage, which will have a gross floor area of 3,596 square feet. Dedicated to storage of vehicles. We'll also have an exercise room and a half bath in it as well. So I'll go through some slides for you on that. As I said, the property is located on a private driveway off Skyline Ranch Road. The proposed location of the oversized garage would be right about here where the cursor is. Property is zoned Park Forest District, and the future land use of the property is forest conservation. You can see it located here. It's not on any roads that are associated with the major street plan. The nearest collector street is Tower Road, located to the east. Here's a site plan of the property with the existing structure, which is approximately 4,434 square feet and an attached garage of 1,286 square feet. And then the proposed building is located right here, generally a little bit to the south of the property. North arrow is right down here, so a little skewed. Now we've got north facing north. This is a close-up of the proposed oversized garage. As you can see here, the setback to the property line is 36.4 feet in lieu of the required 40 feet. There is an existing existing bump out of the paved access easement here and private driveway, and that will line up with the door to the proposed oversized garage. This is the front elevation of the proposed building. It's got a large door in here for RV storage, as well as a man door for access. Got some windows on the front and some windows to the side. And then the rear of the structure does not have any sort of openings on it except for one small man door at the back. Layout floor plan of it, again, a large open space for storage and storage of vehicles and shop space, an exercise room here with where the windows are, and then a half bath and a storage closet as well. Took some pictures of the property. This is the existing house. As you can see here, there's an existing 3-car garage attached to the house already. Over here in this wooded area is the location of the proposed oversized garage. The turnout of the access easement is located right about there. Again, another view of where that turnout is, and so that would tie into the garage right in this area. This is looking directly across from the proposed oversized garage at the residential structure across the driveway. This is looking back to the east along the access easement and the private driveway. And this is looking to the west along the private driveway. I will note that there is an existing accessory garage to the property directly to the west, but it does not meets all height requirements and size requirements. It is not an oversize. And here's a picture coming up the driveway where it comes off of Skyline Ranch Road, showing that the sign was posted for the conditional use permit. That is also an application in conjunction with this variance request. So in reviewing the variance request, staff noted that there is reasonable use on the property. They do have an existing structure, an existing garage. The oversized garage does encroach into the setback. We feel that there's ample opportunity for them to redesign the structure so that it would meet setbacks. So it does not meet all the requirements or criteria for a variance. And, this is a neighborhood of large lots and large homes. There are existing oversized garages throughout the community. This one we couldn't find that it was significantly screened or substantially screened from the neighboring properties. Also, again, that, they could certainly redesign the property or the structure to meet the setbacks for the variance. With that being said, it is kind of in character with the neighborhood. It's not on a public right-of-way. It is on a driveway access instead of a public street. And so we do recommend to deny based on the criteria, but that's really up to the Planning Commission for that.
Thank you, Kip. Vicky?
Thank you. Kip, could you go back to the first slide that shows the private driveway?
Oh, sure.
There, thank you. So this one was hard for us. When we bring, and again, it's coupled with a conditional use permit for an oversized garage. It would be great if we could have them on the agenda side by side, but you have to act on this one as Zoning Board of Adjustment. So what we saw when we looked at this is that it is in a remote area. As you can see, it is a private driveway. It's not on public right-of-way. We did not receive any concerns or complaints from the two other property owners that share this driveway. It is secluded from development to the east and has substantial distance to development to the north. However, when we look at the criteria for a variance, it was difficult for us to bring forward that recommendation to approve because this is such a large garage and goes beyond what would be deemed reasonable. As you'll see later on in the Planning Commission agenda with the oversized garage, it's not located recessed from the residence. It does have matching siding. It's going to be a beautiful development at the end of the day, but it doesn't have any buffering to the property across the street. So this is a hard one for us, and I know it's going to be a hard one for you too. Looking at, will it negatively impact the neighborhood? Is it setting a precedent? If it is your determination to approve these variances, we would want you to note that it's because of the unique location on a private driveway without any neighborhood opposition. If it is your concurrence that reasonable use would exist without these variances, then I think the criteria that Kip has cited would work for you with that recommendation. Thank you.
Thanks, Vicky. Eric, I saw you had a light up. Can you request again? Eric Hikus.
So Kip, in determining the setback from the private driveway, to use the center line of the driveway as the starting point for the center line?
The setback that we're in question is actually this setback here to the property line off the rear corner of the structure. It has to be 40 feet for an accessory structure in Park Forest, and they are proposing a 36.4 foot setback. It does meet setback from the private driveway.
Okay, thank you.
Good question. I didn't catch that little wrinkle. Vicky?
Our setbacks are always measured from the lot line, and in this case, the lot line does straddle that easement to some degree, but it is meeting that front yard setback.
All right, other questions or comments from the commission? Haven?
I was just looking for the sidewall height on this. I happen to have a building that's almost exactly the same size, and it appears that the entry door, the height is really for the RV. He's apparently got vehicles that he likes to store, but that
Correct.
could be done with much lower sidewalls. But it appears he's entering with the big RV door on the side as opposed to the end, which would make a difference in the height requirement. Is that what am I looking at that right?
So this is the front elevation, which does face the private access or private driveway. So you can see the RV door here, and that again is located right where the turnout is, right there. So they'll pull the RV in here and go directly into the door, the RV door there.
So it's, I guess the terminology is a little confusing, but that would really be on the long side of the building, in other
Correct.
words. What you'd normally think it to be the side of the building, which happens to be then the front.
Oops, this does not like me. Yeah, so you can see here again, or the way the property is oriented on the lot. Here is the access driveway. Here's the bump out that goes right there, and they will put an additional reinforced pavement to access that large RV door right there.
Mr. Chair?
Vicky?
So, in looking at that, in order to get that RV in there, the height would be needed and visible from the driveway, the shared private driveway, regardless of where that door location is. I think if they had to move the door to the side, bringing in a large RV and swinging out and trying to make that turn would be difficult too. I don't know if that would be logistically the best solution, but I appreciate trying to find a compromise.
All right, Karen?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Excuse me. There's two things that I thought, I'm thinking, trying to come up with some ideas. The door to get the RV in, that obviously is the height of the RV, because it has to go through the door. But the roof line is a little higher. Is there a way that you can reduce the size of the roof line so it's not quite so high? And the other comment is, if there was some screening from the neighbors, that would make me feel like this is, something that could fit into that neighborhood. I understand there's trees all around, but to get that impact of the neighbor looking directly across right into that garage gives me pause. So I would like to know if there's a way that they can accommodate either one of those ideas.
Mr. Chair?
Kip?
I think that if you look at the garage here, it appears that they're trying to somewhat match the roof line of this garage, of the existing garage, with the proposed. As you can see, similar in character to that. So I think they're trying to kind of go with the same overall design as the existing garage on the property. And like you said, it is fairly wooded. There'll be some trees there's some trees along the front. Some of these may have to be removed for the construction of the building, but there are some trees located along the front of the lot, which will provide some screening. However, it will still be fairly visible from that private driveway.
Mr. Chair,
Vicki?
this item was reviewed by our previous planner, Alex Osborne. So the remainder of staff, we're unaware if the applicant is in the audience. If you are, perhaps that's something, if the applicant is here, raise your hand. Okay. If you do choose to grant the variance, you could do so with the requirement that they provide some trees along the front of the lot line to help buffer the overall size of the garage from the property across the street. Similar to what you did at a meeting a couple meetings ago in North Rapid.
Brooke?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a question for Vicki. So when it talks about in the report setting a precedent, it's not just in this neighborhood. It would be in all, I think, Park Forest District neighborhoods, right? Across the city is what the concern is.
Thank you for the question. And that supports the statement that I made earlier, that if it is your desire to grant this, you make it clear in your motion that it's because that it's accessed off of a shared driveway and not public right-of-way, and it's secluded from properties outside of this 3-lot subdivision.
Haven?
Yeah, I think you had covered it, Vicki, that really it affects two adjoining properties. And it doesn't appear that this private driveway would go further to the north. I mean, in any case, there's no further development to the north that would generate more traffic on this road. That seems to be correct. It's definitely a dead end without the possibility of going further. So there's two properties that are affected. And I think you mentioned, Vicki, that you had not received any comment from either of them. You know, I think that's significant that the two existing adjoining owners haven't made any haven't made any comment on this. And obviously, their properties are sold. The new owners will have certainly have notice of this building in the neighborhood. I guess that's just a comment. Wanted to clarify, I guess, that this private driveway wouldn't access further development to the north. So
Yes.
it's really just these three properties.
Mr. Chair?
Yeah, Kip.
That's correct. As I was out there visiting the property, there's a turnaround right here for this property, and this actually drops off considerably to the north. It's a kind of really steep slope there, so we do not anticipate any additional development off of this private driveway.
How about the backside, the other private driveway?
This one here,
Yep.
I did not go down that one. Again, these are very large lots, and we wouldn't anticipate any additional development out there.
Mr. Chair?
They're all developed, I believe, at this point.
If you've driven out
Okay.
along Skyline Ranch Road, we have numerous private driveways that are platted or recorded by miscellaneous document. This is a very unique area. You're definitely within the core of the city limits, but a lot of these properties, you feel like you're in the middle of the Black Hills. It's important to note that this is a platted private driveway, so no one could propose to extend it or put additional homes on it without consideration from the three homeowners, and it would also require platting through the city. We have provisions within the Infrastructure Design Criteria Manual that limit no more than 4 lots on a private driveway or easement. So I don't think that we'd see this ever as a through street, as Kip mentioned, or even additional lots at this time.
Even I kind of jumped on your question. Do you have anything to add? Karen?
Okay, I can tell this is not an easy one. Nobody wants to say yes or no to this. I guess I'm going to make a motion to approve this based on the fact that it is in a unique area and it's not something that would set precedent for the rest of the city. But I also want to include that they need to add additional screening from that garage, landscaping of some sort. And I don't know how you quantify that because, you know, they could put 1 tree or 5. And, I just don't know how to do that part of it. But that would be my motion anyway.
Mr. Chair?
Vicki?
Great comments, Karen. In addition to the unique location of the request, may I suggest a friendly suggestion that you also indicate that due to the location, it would have minimal impact on the neighborhood. That is one of the stated criteria. I think if you granted the variance with the stipulation that landscaping be provided to buffer the garage, landscaping along the front lot line be provided to buffer the garage, staff will look at that to ensure that we've got trees that, depending upon the species and their mature spread growth, that might determine how many trees, but we can work with them to ensure that we've got that landscape buffer along the front lot line.
That sounds perfect. That's my motion.
All right. Eric Hikas. Actually, can I get a second on the motion first?
I'll second it.
Vince seconded Karen's motion as stated and assisted. Eric Hikas, comments on the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Friendly suggestion. The top of that retaining wall that's near the edge of the road, that would be a appropriate place for buffering of the visual impact from the road there. So one location.
On the rear side as well, you're
Yep.
saying?
Yep.
Thoughts on that by the motion maker in second?
So we're talking about
Vince?
the retaining wall That's already there? I'm sorry. So we're talking about the retaining wall that's already there. That has nothing to do with the landscaping that in Karen's motion, is that correct? That's just an additional buffering.
Mr. Chair?
Yep.
Yeah, this is the proposed retaining wall. Is this one you're talking about, Eric, adjacent to this additional driveway? Yeah, so there are a significant number of trees there as well already. It's very wooded in the rear part of the lot. So we will make sure that there's additional or adequate screening there, but I don't know if they'd have to add anything right there. As you can see on this, there are a lot of trees identified along the rear line of the property there.
So the motion stands as presented.
That's where Karen's at.
Okay, then I stand by my second.
Okay. Kelly?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This one is difficult for me. On one hand, I have to agree with the city staff and align with them. If it does not meet the policies and the objectives of the comprehensive plan, to me, it makes sense to be fair across the board, where regardless of where it's located. But at the same time, given the context of this private driveway and the location, it does seem feasible. I would suggest, or maybe pose the question, could the screening be located more in between the right-of-way, and I know it's a private driveway, but I would consider that traffic area. Could the screening be in between that right-of-way and the structure to sort of tamper down the visual impact? I think it's a smart idea to, if we're gonna pass this, require some sort of screening, buffering, et cetera. So is that an option to put it in between the traffic? I know it's minimal traffic, it's just local neighbors, but would that make sense rather than the retaining wall in the back?
Mr. Chair?
Or
So-
both?
So right now, the stipulation is to put it along the private driveway, as Kip is showing.
Screening?
Yep.
Gotcha.
So
Okay.
that's where we're proposing it. Skyline Ranch Road, that right-of-way ends at the very southern area of the lot.
Right.
And so what we've got north of that is just a driveway that serves one lot. Based on the elevation differential, I concur with Kip. I don't think that the landscaping would serve much purpose there. And there is currently landscaping to some degree along that lot line.
Gotcha. Okay. Thanks for clearing that up.
All right, so the motion on the floor is to approve the variance to allow the 23.7 foot mean height and 36-foot rear setback.
34.6 feet.
34.6. Almost.
Almost.
With the stipulation that landscape screening be added along the front of the structure, proposed structure. Further questions or comments on this motion from the commission before voting? Eric Heikus?
Sorry, I think I muddied it up. Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the grading and that retaining wall that's proposed on that side, that would essentially eliminate all the trees on that area, on that backside. My suggestion was just that there's not this gaping hole looking into the back of that site, because and they could replace some of those trees in the process. So maybe I shouldn't have said anything, but just a friendly suggestion. Thanks.
I would say that's a fair comment, especially with pine trees. If you bury the base, even if you tried to keep them, if you're adding dirt back there, they're gonna die.
Mr. Chair, you'd think
Vicky?
that Eric was a landscape architect or something.
Well, I'll give one more chance to the motion maker in a second. Do you see the need to add a stipulation for screening behind the building?
I guess not.
Okay. I'm getting a no, so. You're allowed to make a substitute motion if you'd like. No, okay. All right, motion on the floor is to approve adding screening along the front private driveway. Other comments? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right. Okay. That, I heard Alicia and Eric in opposition? And any others? So I think that passes by even by the zoning board of adjustment numbers. All right. Okay, that's our only item on zoning board. I'd look for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Vince made the motion, Brooke seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All right, we will now commence the Rapid City Planning Commission meeting for October 5th, 2023. Again, if any member of the audience wishes to speak to an item on the Planning Commission agenda and has not yet turned in a speaker request form, there are forms over here on the left wall. Please fill it out with the agenda number of the item you wish to speak to and hand it to the staff seated over there. Items 1 through 4 have been placed on the consent calendar today and may be approved as a group. Action will be taken on all consent items in accordance with staff's recommendation by a single vote. Any item may be removed from the consent calendar by any planning commissioner, staff member, or audience member for separate consideration at this time. The findings of this planning commission are recommendations to the city council. The city council will make the final decision with the exception of the following items. Item 3, 23 PD 024, and item 4, 23 PD 027. The Rapid City Planning Commission's actions on these items are final unless any party appeals that decision to the Rapid City Council. All appeals must be submitted in writing to the Department of Community Development by close of business on the 7th full calendar day following action by the Planning Commission. Are there any items 1 through 4 that staff would like removed today?
No, thank you.
Are there any items 1 through 4 that any planning commissioner would like removed for separate consideration? And are there any items 1 through 4 that any audience member would like removed for separate consideration at this time? The chair would then entertain a motion to approve items 1 through 4 in accordance with the staff's recommendations.
Motion to approve items 1 through 4 in accordance with the staff's recommendations and stipulations.
All right, Vince made the motion as stated, and Eric Heikus seconded that motion. Any discussion on the motion to approve? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 5.
Here we go again. Item number 5 is 23 UR 027, which is a conditional use permit to allow an oversized garage in the Skyline Ranch subdivision, or the Soldjeskog subdivision, I'm sorry, located off of Skyline Ranch Road. Vicki, what am I supposed to? Okay, yeah, sure. And so based on the action of Zoning Board of Adjustment to grant the variances for this property, we would recommend approval of the conditional use permit with the stipulations as included on the variance itself, which is that the garage shall be constructed in compliance with the submitted elevations and match the existing residence. Landscaping shall be provided along the front lot line from the garage, from the shared private driveway, and the oversized garage shall not be used for commercial uses or as a second residence.
All right, Karen?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to understand they're not going to use commercial uses in that garage because they stated that they needed that garage for their work and they're going to bring their work home, and I didn't know what their work was.
Their original letter of intent was they were going to put an office in that garage. It was just going to be like a home office, and they have since revised that to show that it is just strictly for storage of vehicles and an exercise room.
Okay, that clarifies that.
Yes, thank you.
And I guess for me, if we were going to deny this, either one of those, I would have been very uncomfortable without having the person in the audience to even talk about it. So it's a little odd to do that without that person there, but that's just a comment.
Correct. I concur.
All right, and any parts of this one? Karen?
I might as well make the motion to
Okay.
approve this too, so, with the stipulations that are stated.
Those would be the ones that Kip listed.
Correct.
Okay. All right, Karen made the motion to approve the conditional use permit to allow an oversized garage per those stipulations. Vince seconded that motion. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? I'm hearing the same vote as last time. Alicia and Eric Heike says no. Balance is yes. All right, item number 6.
You're welcome.
Good morning, Planning Commission. Good morning, Chair. I'm here to present item number 6, file number 23TIF004. The applicant has requested to amend the project plan for tax increment District 84. And for the uninitiated in the audience, I will be using a number of acronyms today. So TID is tax increment district, and TIF is tax increment financing, which is the economic development tool that kind of in a state law and a city policy that governs districts, right? Tax increment districts. And this is tax increment District 84. And the project plan, also for the uninitiated, is a major policy document that outlines the purpose of the district and some of the rules associated with it, as well as a number of financial aspects and project costs and line items and things of that nature. So the applicant is requesting to amend that project plan. So on the screen here, we have a lovely picture of the district. Thank you, Sarah, for providing that. It's the Tall Grass Apartments. It's part of East Philadelphia Street and the lovely hills beyond. So, and the East Anamosa extension there. So, which are all project costs and line items kind of associated with this district. Another kind of map overview of the district. It's approximately 970 acres. It expands basically between Omaha, East North Street, Eglin, and Elkvale. It's kind of encompassed by those kind of major arterials. I skipped over the zoning map just because it's a little busy, and we'll look at some of the zoning at the master plan level in a moment. But as a planning aficionado of planning theory and things of that nature, I don't think you can ask for a better future land use or like a land use organization where you have workforce housing. We have this like residential node surrounded by all this employment and industrial and commercial. So it's really going to be the next up and coming kind of area of the city, and I really look forward to seeing how things develop here. The major street plan, we have Valley Drive, or the future North Valley Drive extension. It's a proposed collector in that dotted green line that kind of bisects the district north-south and curves over to North Street. And then we have Valley Drive that is accompanied by 2 minor arterials with Nicholson Drive to the west and Concourse Drive kind of extending up to the east, and then East Anamosa as the principal arterial kind of bisecting the east-west segment. Here's the original master plan. I'm not going to go into too great detail on this, but I will kind of flip back and forth between the revisions and the original a little bit to just kind of show you some elements that have changed. So here's the revised, which reflects kind of the colors of the zoning and the master plan. So we have yellow being like low density residential. Those are your single family homes. Orange being your medium density residential duplexes, condos, townhomes, apartments, things of those natures. And then red commercial, we have the Rapid City public kind of zoning district, the schools district, some open space or kind of future phases. Note that this doesn't kind of highlight the entire district, just kind of the initial phase of the tax increment district development. And I just kind of, in the red circle there, just highlighted how the booster station has changed its location, and also it is in a new phase called Phase 1A, which I will discuss here in a moment. So just flipping back to the original, you kind of see the school district parcel kind of flips over more to the east, and the Shepherd Hills East subdivision they kind of switch places, and North Valley Drive kind of changes some alignment and some other minor details, but just wanted to review that with you. There was a member of the audience asked about some drainage issues on Valley Drive to the south of this map. You'll see the Diamond Ridge subdivision and Pond 220, and it says Phase 1 Regional Detention Element, Pond 220. So that is the pond that we are targeting to help alleviate with some of those drainage issues in that area, as well as the ponds to the north of East Santa Mosa. Okay, here's the adopted project plan. So originally we had 2 phases, and I know this may be hard for the audience to see. Please do ask questions after the presentation if you have them. So originally we had 2 phases with a total cost of $25.9 million, and originally just 1 developer, the applicant. Another kind of update or thing we wanted to point out before getting into the meat of the amendment itself is just the valuation change of the district has, just due to kind of the economic environment and inflation and things of those natures, we had an assessed base valuation of $37.6 million, whereas in 2022 we have that almost nearly doubling, 66, and then providing about $170,000 in tax revenue in 2023, which is kind of on the mark with the projected payout schedule that I will show here in a moment, the revised projected payout schedule or the amortization schedule. So in the staff report and in the project plan, we kind of broke the amendment into like 6 parts. I've condensed it into like 4 for the sake of time. But before I get into each part, I just wanted to say that, the amendment reallocates funds in order to reconcile kind of supply chain issues associated with the pandemic, and then the following kind of unanticipated commercial construction, real estate financing environment. So you'll see some of those financing costs increase as we go through the parts of the amendment. And then just also costs kind of unanticipated with the regional booster station or the booster station study that was included in the original project plan. So into the meat of the amendment here, part 1 of that, to address the booster station, which is badly needed. We're introducing the city as developer 2 to upfront those costs of the booster station and creating a new phase called Phase 1A. The city will be repaid back through the district. $950,000 was originally allocated in the project plan. $570,000 of that has been spent on that study. And now we need $4.4 million to construct the regional booster station. So of that construction cost, there's going to be $5.6 million in financing of it for a total of approximately $10 million for Phase 1A. Okay, moving on. There we go. So part 2 of the amendment increases total project costs by 34.6%. So the developers bank, while the city would have preferred having more of a cost sharing approach to this, the developers bank really wouldn't accompany that kind of arrangement. And for the success of the TID, and we spoke with the finance department and our peers on the review committee, we were able to come up with a compromise that would work and really help resolve one of the major project cost items issues. So while it's not the first choice of the city to allow this kind of arrangement, we felt this was kind of the best way forward in reducing any kind of exposure to risk. And the city is asking to increase the full 35% amount just to also have that buffer in case there's any issues. The original request was a 31% increase by the applicant, but we sought to just go that full extra project cost increase to cover any potential risk associated with the booster station. And I just wanted to reiterate that the cost sharing agreement, you know, we while we would have preferred that and had some sort of arrangement made, all of the costs for Phase 1A or Phase 1 will be certified first, all of those costs, in order to make the arrangement that we needed to ensure the success of the TID, and then the city will be kind of paid after Phase 1 is certified. So this is just a kind of table showing the adopted costs and then the revised costs and showing some of those financing increases. And this is just kind of, again, reiterates my point on how difficult the financing environment has become, right? We've gone up, what, 5 basis points in the past couple years. So just wanted to highlight that table, that total 34.6% increase. And also just reiterating that Phase 2 is unlikely to be constructed going forward because of the cost reallocation. This portion of the project plan amendment, this is looking at the projected, the payout schedule or the amortization schedule. This is for Phase 1. So this, going from left to right, we have the year of the project. It has until 2041 to pay off. The applicant is suggesting that it's going to pay off sooner, at least for Phase 1, would pay off in 2033, and then, or as early as 2033, and then starting in shortly thereafter, the city would begin receiving payments on Phase 1A for the booster station. Sorry, going back left to right, so we have the year and then we have the balance of the loan. Then we have the commercial assessed, the commercial property assessed value. Then we have the owner's occupied assessed value, so the residential property. Then we have the interest payments on the loan, and then the potential tax revenue coming in each year. So you can see it progressively increasing year to year. And I had iterated earlier in my presentation that there was about $170,000 in tax revenue in 2023, and that's about on par here on the mark with the projected payout. So moving on with part 3 of the amendment. So we're reallocating project costs within the line items, and this includes Pond 220, so that goes back into Phase 1, as well as some other project costs that weren't kind of previously in the original project plan. And those are constructing Mickelson Drive, and as well as some utility relocations, some additional drainage improvements, and things of those nature. So just highlighting those here. So in the red boxes are the items that weren't originally in the project plan and that are being added. The East Anamosa Street construction, the second one from the top, you'll see that those costs have been revised as well. It's one of the larger ticket items. Again, these are all costs associated in Phase 1. Part 4 of the amendment, we have a slight change to the phase boundaries. The TID district boundary is not changing, but the boundary of Phase 1 slightly shifted to the east to accommodate the Anamosa extension over to Diamond Ridge Boulevard. And again, Phase 2 is not expected to occur, so we're not going to see that East Anamosa extension all the way over to Elkvale. but that's something that we can explore potentially in a future TIF. And Booster Station is being moved to Phase 1A for certification purposes. Again, here's that kind of shift in the Phase 1 boundary. Also note that a developer's agreement will be revised and will accompany the request and outline the conditions of the partnership now being proposed as the city is being entered into the agreement as developer 2 for the booster station. So with that, the TIF committee reviewed and approved and recommended approval of the amendment, and it's up to the planning commission now to make a recommendation on whether to amend it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. A lot of information there. I do have a speaker request form on this. I go to that before we get to the planning commission members. Charles Sims, if you'd like to address the commission. Once you're up at the microphone, just identify yourself for our minutes, please.
Hi, yes, I'm Charles Sims. I live over at 328 Diamond Ridge Boulevard. I'd like to thank the council for allowing me to have kind of an open forum here. I have concerns about the quality of work done by the Dream Homes. I represent 4 of the members, all of my neighbors, basically. We have kind of a problem with the back area, which is a hill incline. So we have a steep hill, but then it goes directly up about 2.5 feet, and basically is a cliff that someone could, like maybe a small kid, could jump off of. So I don't really, I understand inflation has gone up about 20% in the past 2.5 years and everything else, but I would probably have pause on actually giving that money out until verification of work, because this particular problem, I have the neighbors across from me, Son and Michelle, they actually got, they talked to like the person who built the house across from them, and they're like, okay, so let's smooth this out a little bit, make it a little less dangerous and everything else like that. The one across from me, the builder over there, didn't respond to me, refused to actually communicate and all. The realtor refused to tell me who the builder was. I contacted Dream Homes directly via email to be like, hey, so this is kind of an issue. No response whatsoever. So I think verification of quality of work should be looked at. I also noticed that there's not an, on this particular map, there isn't a height adjustment either. So it's not telling you exactly what the distance is, which is kind of hard to do over a flat map, especially whenever you come up against a straight up and down. But I do have pictures if you'd like to see it with like a little grid on it for an example to show you kind of what I'm dealing with. It's also included an extra cost for a retaining wall because, well, that's an unexpected cost that almost defies the South Dakota disclosure law based on the time that I bought it because of the, well, weather. But anyways, it's kind of a hazard and I would kind of like to get rid of it. However, it does cross lines, so it goes from Diamond Ridge over to, I think it's Somerville or Bar 5. I forget which route it is. However, I would just, my opinion is I would just hold pause and get verification of like actual good work. That's about all I have.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Appreciate the comments. Vince?
Yes, it's 328 Diamond Ridge Boulevard.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. If you could point out on this map where the homeowner is talking about, or any map.
Here?
Yes, it's right near Anamosa Street, so it's like the 6th house. So it's actually right above the text, right there.
So in this, okay.
Yep.
It's near the intersection with Anamosa and Diamond Ridge Boulevard.
Okay.
I actually have this lovely picture as
Oh,
well,
okay.
which
Yeah,
actually,
we can maybe put that on the projector.
Can we do the doc cam, please?
Yep, 2 seconds.
Yeah, I don't know how you get this to.
I've got a rapid map too if you want. That might help.
It says there's like a highlighter tool here. But
Okay.
oh, there you go.
So as you can see, the, it's quite a.
Sorry, can you go to the microphone? It's just
Oh,
tough to
sorry.
hear.
As you can see, it's quite a steep incline right there. That part where it actually goes to a vertical line is about 2.5 feet. I don't have a problem with the hill, it's the problem with like that steep incline right there and the lack of anyone actually contacting me or getting back to me, even though I've sent out about 4 different emails. I think I even hit up Pennington and they referred me to over here, and I was like, okay, so there's an open forum, so I'm going to
Okay.
go state my case here.
So, Mr. Sims, is this your backyard?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I had to pay for the retaining wall because if I did put down solid or grass seed, it would have actually just kind of, well, drained it away. It would have gotten rid of it altogether.
And when the realtor and you couldn't get a hold of the builder and you couldn't find who the builder is, did you contact the city? I know you said you contacted the county, and they said.
I've been quite busy. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Sure,
I've been
that's
very
okay.
because I came here from Germany. I've been very busy.
Mhm.
This is the first time I've actually gotten a chance to deal with the problem in general.
Okay.
So
Okay. No, I thank you, sir. Thank you for your input. I did have a question about the booster station. And if you could remind me, when this first came up, wasn't there a provision? Because I know there was concern about the interest rates changing, but wasn't there a provision to accommodate an interest rate change on that booster station? Or am I not remembering correctly?
Vicky?
Thank you for the question. The original project plan included $950,000 for the booster station, and a feasibility study needed to be conducted first to make sure that we could change the plans for the infrastructure in the way that the proposal was intended to go into effect. So the feasibility study alone cost almost $600,000, and so in essence, the project plan did not adequately include sufficient funds to cover actual construction of the booster station. And with regard to the financing component, the city's TIF policy caps the interest amount at 9% total. So it's really more of a funding shortage and then needing to have additional funds in the project plan to account for financing costs.
Well, thank you. I couldn't remember all of that, but thanks for pointing that out. And so, in addition, what we're talking about is any kind of increase. We're also speaking of the applicant is also going to incur an increase in that cost. Is that correct?
Gotcha.
Yes, there's a provision in state law which allows for project plans to be increased by up to 35% of their original amount without changing the base valuation of the district. And so that's essentially what's happening with this request. They're asking for additional funds to be authorized to be repaid by the district as part of the project plan amendment.
Okay. Thank you, Sarah.
And if I may, just one
Yeah,
while
go
I'm on
for
the
it.
mic. And then the other major change is that originally the developer was going to be paying for the cost of the booster station upfront to be repaid by the TID. Now the situation is that the city will be paying for the cost of the booster station upfront and be repaid through the TID after the developer is paid for phase 1, which Jonathan did a great job of explaining in your presentation. I'll just reiterate it.
All right, I received another speaker request form. John West, if you'd like to speak up at the microphone.
No, sure.
Jonathan?
Hello, my name is John West. I'm the manager of Brookdale Estates, and I also live in Copperfield Vistas. And I agree with what he said. For the last 2.5 years, they've flooded homes in our park. I told the city when they started this project that it was going to flood. I was assured that it wouldn't happen, but it is. Right now, they have a culvert facing our homes. There's 3 homes on one side that have flooded several times. They fixed that, but they haven't fixed the other one yet that I know of. So, and then they were gonna want to open up Mickelson Drive. There's kids that walk across that road. They haven't said what they're gonna do with it. They're gonna make the speed limit 25 miles an hour. And the kids walk across to go to the bus every morning. People are speeding through there. I know that's not their fault, but the city doesn't want to do anything about it, and neither does anybody else. If I say anything about the flooding, I get, well, Dream Design doesn't own that anymore. They sold it to Signature or whoever, call them. The city says, well, who told you it wouldn't flood? Blah, blah. Or that's phase number 2. I get excuses all the time. I just like to have that addressed. So.
Thank you.
Okay.
I'm just gonna jump in. There's no other lights up. Just had a couple questions on the sort of the costs and phasing. The booster station costs that the city is proposing as developer 2 on this, they do receive financing costs for putting the money up front, correct?
This is correct.
Okay. The phasing, it mentioned several times that phase 2 is not, can you go back to that map? The phase 2 is probably not going to be constructed.
Correct.
This is just a cursory glance at it, but is that pond 300 or anything else needed that was supposed to be constructed in phase 2 to support the development in phase 1 or 1A?
Mr. Chair.
And maybe I do have a speaker request from Mr. Shaffey, and he can address that.
That would be my suggestion as well.
Okay.
I did want to point out this, though. So phase 1A is being proposed, which does make city a co-applicant in this. It doesn't mean that the booster station won't be constructed after phase 1. It just means that payment from the TIF for the booster station will happen after phase 1 is certified.
For sure.
Also, that area on Anamosa, and Jonathan, if you could just highlight that. Kip, potentially you can help him show how to do that. There you go. So it's all of that. That's not being removed from the TIF. It's just anticipation that that project may not get done in the 5-year period to incur costs for this TIF to be able to put money towards. And so as future development happens to the east, we'll be working to ensure that Anamosa Street gets extended out to Elkvale Road. As many of you recall, when this TIF first came in, one of the exciting features is that we would get that connection to Elkvale Road. The developer has, in lieu of that, offered up the connection of Mickelson Drive, which is a collector street. That's a needed connection from 44 into the Anamosa Street area. I appreciate the comments from the gentleman in the audience. Certainly, Public Works will work with the construction plans for this to ensure that it's being built to city street design standards, sidewalks included, and that the speed limit on that road meet all city regulations. If there is children crossing, if there's need for striping of a crosswalk, that's something that they can work with the city to ensure that is put into place. And I will defer to Hanny on the drainage comment, Mr. Chair.
Chair, just one quick comment about the
Yeah.
pond in this phase. So yes, this pond 300 is part of phase 2, and the other 3 ponds are part of phase 1.
Yeah, I, in theory, don't have an issue with separating the 2 phases. Things happen, but I just don't, I mean, phase 1 has a lot of development associated with it, and I just want to make sure that there's not anything caused in that needs to be built alongside it. that's my comments. We'll go to Hanny. Mr. Shafi, if you'd like to address.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and members of the commission. My name is Hani Shafi, President of Dream Design, and we're the applicant. Thank you for allowing us to, first of all, speak before you and also submit this amendment. This project is a true partnership between the private and the public sector to improve the infrastructure in the east side of town. It includes 2 water mains, 20-inch and a 16-inch, and then East Anamosa and Mickelson Drive. You know, there are a couple of comments from the neighbors, you know, that, and the gentleman with the house, I gave him my card and we'll visit with him. And as far as the construction of the homes, we really don't get involved in the construction of the homes. You know, we have a builder that buys the homes. We graded the lots for a walkout, certain homes that were not built as walkouts, so that may have created some challenges in the backyards. I really have not been involved in any of those, but we'll visit with the gentleman and address that. As far as the mobile home park, as part of the drainage plan for that mobile home park when it was built, it included a drainage channel on the east side of that mobile home park. You know, and a rapid map, you know, if you wish, I could show that. That drainage channel was never constructed on the east side, so therefore there is going to be flooding regardless of this subdivision happening or not, but the plans are on file at the city, and the owner of the trailer park should have built that channel to really prevent any flooding. The flooding may have existed prior to our development. The frequency of the flooding would increase with the development and with the changes in the environment. As you know, the intensity of rain events and the frequency is changing completely these days. So I hope this addresses that. You know, the file, as far as the channel, it is on file with the city, and the manager of the trailer park, he could probably go to the city and check that out for himself. You know, the school, you know, down below, which is the South Dakota VOTEC, has constructed the channel all the way to the trailer park, and except the trailer park itself, the channel on its property has not been constructed. That's as far as that goes. As far as detention pond number 3, you know, there are sub-basins within the development. You know, on top of the hill, you know, there is, you know, if I could,
this map or rapid map?
oh, this one will be fine. The rapid map was needed only for the trailer park.
Okay, let me enlarge it for you.
Okay, thank you. As far as the detention pond number 3, yeah, we agree with you. As we develop the property, we always try to, you know, submit a drainage map or a drainage plan to address the local and the regional drainage. Currently, we have constructed the other detention ponds, which are basically the ones along phase 1. The pond 320 has not been constructed, but we're working with city staff to ensure that any construction for a drainage pond 320 does not negatively impact the downstream folks that live in the pathway of the drainage, because there are certain improvements between Highway 44 and that detention pond that need to be in place, and we're working with city staff to do that. So we'll be constructing 320 as part of phase 1, and the outlet structure for that will be modified slightly from the plan to ensure that it does not negatively impact the properties downstream. Those ponds are over-designed, not just to accommodate our development, but also to reduce the amount of flow that is downstream beyond what is required by the city, because some of the restrictions with the downstream improvements. As far as that, you know, to get back to 300, we actually discussed that internally in our staff yesterday. As we develop to the west, even if East Anamosa is not constructed, you know, the top of the ridge is approximately where the cursor is, if you can see it, which is along the power line separating, Shepherd Hills from the east side of Shepherd Hills. And as we develop in that sub-basin to the east, we have to build detention pond number 300 regardless of East Anamosa being constructed or not. As far as phase 2 not being constructed, phase 2 would be constructed. Unfortunately, this TIF with the 35% does not have adequate funds to develop phase 2, but hopefully it will be developed in the near future, either with a new TIF or in other types of partnerships between the developers and the city. I hope that addressed all the questions. If there is any other questions, I'll be more than happy to answer them. Thank you.
Sounds good. Mr. West, I'm seeing that you may wish to address again. You'd have to do it from the microphone, though.
I just want to comment on his, about I've got the blueprints, and then nowhere in there does it show any drainage or any ditch on that side. I've been there 15 years. There's people been there since 1980, since it was built. It's never flooded those homes. So I don't know what he's talking about. I haven't seen no plans for no ditch over there. And
Maybe something that's on the plans on file with the city. So
Well, yeah, and
something
then,
we'll
like-
probably have to address after the meeting.
I've
Mr.
seen
Chair?
more rain than I've ever seen before when I was first here, and it never flooded those. I've seen the whole front road in front of the office to where was a river, and it flooded 44. It never flooded any of those homes. I told the city, and I told them when they started, they're gonna flood my homes in there, and they did, and they're still doing it, so.
Mr. Chair,
Vicki?
we have the city engineer in the meeting today. Maybe this gentleman could set up an appointment with Roger Hall. He's sitting on the dais today, sir. And you can, certainly we can go back and look at the plans that were approved for the mobile home park. Obviously, what's getting constructed now, anytime we approve plans, a developer is allowed to allow drainage from their property in the flows that existed before it was developed, but nothing more. So that rate and volume has to stay the same, which is why we see all these detention ponds being proposed as a part of the master plan that you see on the screen today. But if, hopefully with looking at what drainage was supposed to be in place on your property in comparison to what is being provided as a part of what Mr. Shafi is doing, we should be able to find some solution somewhere.
Roger, I'm volunteering you for things, but this is another one. We'd appreciate it.
For a second.
Yep.
Thank you, Chairman. We're aware of the flooding that's been occurring in the mobile home court. We've had people out there several times. There's a drainage channel that's to be constructed. I'd call it to the north. Would that be correct, from that other site, to deter things around? We have struggled to get that channel built and properly seated between the change of ownership with that mobile home park to their north. There is and Hanny, you might correct me if I'm wrong, we've met on this major drainage channel to the east that we've talked about, and we've met with Western Dakota VOTEC also on their drainage plans. So we're actively looking at improving the drainage in this area, and Hanny's not involved in that part of it, but I have met with Western Dakota VOTEC people on what I call the east side. And we recognize the problem, and we've been working to rectify it with mixed success, shall we say. So, but on that, I would love to sit down and meet with you sometime and set up some time with my engineers, and we'll go out and visit the site and see what we can do. Thank you.
Thank you, Roger. Mr. Shafi, did you have anything?
Yeah, I don't, as far as the drainage, in this whole area, as I mentioned before, there is a drainage master plan for the city that city has paid a lot of money for. And our goal is to construct all of the improvements in accordance or exceeding that plan, and that's what we've done. as far as the drainage channel on the east side of that mobile home park, which is really what this gentleman has, I never met this gentleman before, but I don't have any reason to manufacture facts. This is a copy of the design plans for that trailer park when it was approved, and it shows the drainage channel on that park as part of their design plans. And this is the east property line. There is a defined drainage ditch on the east side property. You know, that is part of the drainage plan and the master plan and the design plans for that trailer park. Those plans are on file with the city, and there is no existing channel to carry that flow, and therefore the flow coming out, you know, coming out from the north and the east goes into the trailer park. And as I mentioned before, you know, with our development and with the change in intensity, yes, since that channel is not constructed, there would be flooding on that trailer park. I hope that addresses that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Karen?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I kind of waited till have everybody have their comments, and a lot of comments from the public. That was good. My comments are more maybe technical. Sitting on the review team or committee that we met a week or so ago, I had several comments then, and I just wanted to clarify some of those. Number one, the idea that the city has to wait till the end of the project to start getting repaid gave me pause, but I understand the reasoning for it, so I'm not saying that's bad. It's just a comment. And I also was hoping that East Anamosa Street could go through, but if it will still be in the books to do that in the future, I understand that also. When I looked at the project plan, there was a lot of things that are more technical, and you know, I don't want to get into them, but it took me a long time to figure out how you arrived at some of the figures and how they came about. And so my first question is, the Exhibit A and the amortization schedules, they're not actually in the project plan itself, but they're attachments. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, that helps me a lot because of the confusion. So the phase one, the developer will still be able to recoup the $570,000 from their drainage
For the studies. Correct.
Okay. When I looked at the bottom of the Exhibit A, it shows the phase one, phase two, phase 1A, those comments, and I couldn't figure out how to get to the dollar figures that you had at the bottom. And I finally realized it's because there's a line item that says financing costs, but there's nothing written there. So when I went back to figure out where the financing costs were and plug those in, then it makes sense. Then the dollar figures come out correct. And so there's a line item for that, so I don't know why you just don't put that number in there. So in the future, somebody else is looking at it, they can't say, well, where did they get that number? No, nobody will probably ever look at that but me, but you know, it was like, how did they get there? And then it also has at the bottom, it says these are total capital improvements for phase 1A and 1A and stuff. Well, that's okay for the revised part, but the adopted part is not. It's actually phase 1 and 2. That's how you came up with those numbers. So it's just a comment. If you want to change that for the future to make sure that people understand, that would be great, but it's just a technical thing. I also noticed that the financing costs when we were at the review committee was $5,300,000, and now it's $5,600,000. And I understand the reasoning behind all that too, so I just wanted to note that I did notice that, in case anybody wondered. You know, I'm trying to think if there's anything else. Not really. As long as the exhibits and the amortizations are not actually in that document that's going to be there for the developer's agreement, I'm okay. And that was my big comment before, and I just wanted to clarify some of those things that I brought up at the review committee, so that's all the comments I have for now.
Sarah?
Mr. Chair, thank you. I just want to take a moment to respond to those great comments from you, Karen. Thank you. The applicant submitted what we're calling Exhibit A, and over the course of the review of the project, there were some changes made to it. So you notice, a couple of versions out there from TIF committee, and then that changed. We had originally formatted the project plan to be structured around that exhibit that the applicant submitted. With some really good input from our city attorney on Friday afternoon, actually, we sort of changed course and reformatted that to fit more traditionally into how the project plan numbers are presented in the project plan. So if you looked at the project plan right after it was published, it probably resembled what's attached as Exhibit A. And then early this week, it was revised to be formatted more traditionally how we do that with the project plan. So Karen, I'd have to follow up with you to look at how things were organized and what questions you had, and I think hopefully that was addressed. What's on the screen now is how it's proposed in the project plan to be adopted as the amendment.
Okay, so this document right here that I'm seeing, that will be part of the project plan itself?
The project plan. We still have included Exhibit A as sort of documentation to go along with the project file, so we can kind of track its progress as something submitted by the applicant, something the city had input on, and then now ultimately the project plan is kind of taking both of those and putting them into one format that's similar to how all our other project plans are designed and presented.
Okay, and same with the amortization schedules, those will be an attachment.
Yep, those will be an attachment.
Okay.
And then to your second comment about the amount of financing, we had discussed that at the TIF committee that that number was kind of a little bit of a moving target moving forward, that the city in understanding that we're taking on some amount of risk with not accepting any payment for phase 1A until after phase 1, that we just wanted to minimize that risk exposure a little bit. And if we're going to increase project costs by up to 32%, we might as well increase them by up to 35%. The TIF can only pay for as much as we actually need, but that way it gives just a little bit more buffer room for the city if it's needed. We don't even know for sure that it would be needed, but we just wanted a little bit of that extra pad in there just in case. And just in case phase 1 takes longer to pay off than 2033, which is what we're expecting, but we don't have a crystal ball, so we don't know.
Yes, and I agree with what you're saying, and I just wanted to make sure that they weren't included in the project plan, that amortization schedule, and that was my comment at the committee meeting. And so the fact that it's an attachment, it makes me say it's okay.
Okay.
So,
thank you.
Yes.
Sarah, I got to follow up now. Yeah. How does the city certify their financing costs or establish that?
How we establish it. So that's probably a question best answered by Daniel Ainsley, our finance director. But there would be, what we ask for the developers is invoices and documentation of all of the actual expenses made. We would ask the same of ourselves. Same with the booster station construction costs. Our teammates in the engineering and public works division will be retaining all of the documentation related to those construction costs that will live as part of the file.
Yeah, I think we deserve the financing costs as a city, since the money's being paid up front. I have zero issue with that, but these, I don't know. I've got one in the past that I'm not real clear on how financing costs are established for large entities that don't necessarily go down to U.S. Bank or Wells Fargo and take out a loan. And I'm just curious.
Mr. Chair.
Vicki?
So it is unfortunate that our new finance director isn't here today because this is something that he does have a lot of experience in, and he's actually very excited about. This will be one of the first projects where the city becomes a developer. We are financing a part of this project. We will recoup that interest rate as a part of that, and that is money that we can use then on other CIP projects. You're going to see us becoming more aggressive with potentially being the bank on some of the smaller TIFs that come in. so that the city can capture that finance that gets paid, that interest rate that gets paid. And again, that's just more money that we can then use to do additional projects in the city. Daniel is very excited about this. He's laying out a plan to bring that proposal forward. And this will, in some regards, kind of be a trial basis on what that looks like.
I'd celebrate that idea. It would just be nice to, in the future, get a explanation of how that mechanism works. Karen?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just to follow up, I think in the past, the city has been a partner in some other TIFs, and so we've always got our financing through the Treasurer's Office, the Finance Office, to make sure that it all complies, because we don't want people looking at it and say, how come you didn't, and they have to, and it's a big item. These TIFs are important. They help our city grow, and it helps the developers, it helps the city, helps the citizens, and that's the main thing we want to do. Is if we're going to have growth, we want to make sure that it's done correctly, and this is a huge project that's out there, so it gets real complicated when you start looking at all the pieces of it. And I just want to compliment the staff on how they have handled this, and I think it's going to go forward, and it'll be a good project in the end.
Vince?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I agree, Karen. And I just wanted to make sure or ask a question, and maybe Mr. Ainsley can answer it some other time. But when it comes to this, the city financing this, then the city becomes the property owner. Is that correct?
Vicki?
So this will be a city-owned booster station, yes.
Okay, thank you.
All right, other questions or comments on the amendment number 1 to TID number 84? Kelly.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a note for the city staff and commission, I will be abstaining from this item today.
Thanks, Kelly. Anything else to discuss on this? Brooke?
Mr. Chairman, I just make a motion to approve 23T1004 as presented to this morning.
And I'll second that.
All right, Brooke made the motion to approve this item, and Vince seconded that motion. Further discussion on the motion to amend this tax increment district? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries with Kelly abstaining. That takes us to the end of the usual agenda, or I don't know, presented agenda. Any staff or discussion items today, Vicki?
We don't have anything for today, Mr. Chair.
All right.
Oh, excuse me.
Oh, we do.
You'll have to remind me. Pardon? Oh, it is time for elections.
Today? Oh,
We're just putting you on notice that at your next meeting,
okay.
so that you guys can start talking amongst yourselves. Certainly, we have chair, vice chair, and secretary. And as you know, the secretary doesn't do secretarial duties. They just fill in case the chair and vice chair can't chair the meeting.
Well, they gotta sign certain things.
Yeah, yeah, and you have to sign certain things. So we appreciate that, for the most part, we've got great attendance by the planning commission members, but certainly be thinking about if someone wants one of those positions, you gotta talk to each other and you gotta put your name out there.
All right, Vince?
I just want to add that, because I worked in newspapers, magazines, and depended on an editor doing exceptional work to catch me on things. And again, I want to thank Karen for her exceptional work and editing.
All right. Nothing else. I'd look for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
All right, Vince made the motion. Mike Goller seconded it. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
this